Hello and welcome to Call of the Wild, a WWF UK podcast. This is the place where we explore the wonderful world of nature, what it means to us, why it's good for us, and share those extra special moments of how it has shaped us. My name is Cel Spellman, I'll be your host, and this episode is brought to you by Aviva. Well, today's guest is the brilliant singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, producer, educator. I mean, the list goes on, but I will not go on. What I will do is mention his name, Mr. Jacob Collier.
Oh, hi.
How are we?
We're very well, and we're happy to be here this morning. We really are.
I wanted to begin now because on tour last year, am I right in saying you had trees on stage?
I did have trees on stage.
Tell me more about
all of them. Olive trees, big old olive trees.
Tell me, was this your idea? Why were they on there? I think it was very, very cool. Well, a perfect place to start for the podcast.
Thank you. Yes, it really is. That's lovely. My job when building this tour and designing it was to create a space that felt both epic and intimate, right? And if there's ever something I can think of spiritually in an area of my life that feels like it does that, it's the natural world.
Yeah.
It can be so staggering and so full of awe, and also feel so cozy and so welcoming.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, how can I bring some of that to the stage? You know, it's some of these venues are like boxy warehouses filled with dust and, you know, all sorts of things. So I thought, well, maybe I should bring some trees into the frame. And so the idea was to have these trees that can play all these different characters, play these different roles. And so what we've done with the trees is in the leaves of the trees, we put these little bulbs. And those bulbs can be any color and any brightness. And so you can sort of scuttle things around on them. So they can strobe like you're in a club, or they can glow like you're in it's a lantern environment, or they can be like a star field, or they can be, basically they can be really loud or really quiet visually, which just helps us scale the DNA of what we're doing on stage.
Amazing.
So there's a lot of improvisation and moments we have no idea what's going to happen. So they can actually also react to the instruments. So someone can play a drum or a bass or a key and it'll go.
No way, off the tree.
Exactly.
Almost like, because you see them sometimes on T-shirts and stuff, but you've got that going on within your little forest, so to speak.
Well, exactly. So I wanted to create this little sort of cocoon of like a multi-purpose world that the audience feels like they're really climbing into and really feeling at home within. And so yeah, that was really a dream of mine for some time, and I'm very stoked that we've been able to make it happen.
It's very, very cool.
Thank you.
It feels a nice place to start as well, because I mean, to have trees on stage, you can see how much nature probably means to you, and also how much a source of inspiration, even listening to you there. Has that always been a case from young, Jacob?
It really has. I'm truly a city lad. I know the feelings that come with that, taking the bus and getting in the car and sitting in the traffic and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that when I first began to spend time in nature, I was just struck first of all by the quiet. It's extraordinary and all-encompassing. You think, gosh.
Yeah.
Whoa. You know, and the more you lean into that, the more you get out of it.
For sure.
But gosh, I mean, some of my first experiences in forests just completely took me by surprise. It sort of tickled every part of my being, because as someone who's always loved sort of symmetry and detail, and you could say in a sense complexity, which I would differentiate from being complicated. I think complicated is a human word, but complexity is a natural word. And if you look at a forest and hang out in forests, as I'm sure you have done, you're just sort of struck by how many different moving parts that are intelligent are going on, but they're all sort of synergized and organized in a way that just feels so safe and natural for someone with the kind of mind which I feel I have, which is just loves to be held by detail. Everything going on by itself, and you just get to sit and absorb. So I think as a child, as you are often, I think, hit as a child emotionally by things first, I was just struck emotionally by the forest.
Wow.
You know, it's just and actually in the UK there are so many amazing natural forests. So, you know, I grew up going to Wales, spending a lot of time there, and going to Norfolk. So when I go to a place in my mind internally that feels quiet and safe, it's often to either Wales or Norfolk.
Wow.
Just the nature there really, really spoke to me when I was small.
Now that does sound amazing. Actually, it's something we speak about a lot on Call of the Wild, is people's ability to access nature, help them find that love and appreciation, like you said, and hopefully in turn give them the want and will to do something and be a part of the solution. But something we always speak about is that it's not just on the individual. There is a huge responsibility on big companies and corporations to play their part too. And that is why today we are going to hear from an insurance company called Aviva about their work to help more people get outside and benefit from nature. They've been doing some really cool stuff with WWF since around 2021 on a number of different conservation and community projects around the UK. One of these is the Aviva Access to Nature Fund, a grant-giving programme in partnership with WWF and Norfolk Rivers Trust. It has provided funding of between £150 to £1,500 for community groups, clubs, schools and charities to support volunteering opportunities, well-being and educational visits. Leah Ramotar is the Director of Environmental Sustainability at Aviva and is here to tell us more.
Aviva believes everyone deserves the opportunity to engage with nature and the incredible benefits it brings. And that was one of the main reasons for the creation of this fund. The fund has enabled 50 groups made up of more than 800 people from different ages and backgrounds to access the countryside, some for the very first time. This included young adults and children, families, mixed ability access, and older people as well. The Access to Nature funding made a real difference. It has helped break down those barriers for those community groups and schools and charities in Norfolk by enabling them to connect with and enjoy nature. For example, young carers, some of whom had never been on a train before, enjoyed a special trip to the seaside, and new parents and their babies took part in a series of mindfulness walks in the woods. We're really proud to have helped make nature more accessible to people, helping communities in Norfolk and ensuring that all people can enjoy the incredible health and well-being benefits. Environmental action is very important for Aviva. Climate change and nature loss impact our investment portfolio. They impact the physical assets and the projects that we insure, but they also impact the resilience of our own operations. Healthy ecosystems such as forests and wetlands act as natural defenses against many climate-related perils that impact our business, such as floods and storms and droughts. And by incorporating nature-based solutions into our strategy, we can enhance the resilience of our business and reduce long-term losses. So Aviva and WWF came together in a shared mission to address climate change and nature loss by building those climate-resilient communities, restoring nature, and engaging the public in action. Aviva is a financial services company, so we recognize our role within the UK finance sector. We bring a connection to our customers, but also the credibility and the reach to lead the way within financial services. WWF brings expertise in restoring landscape and an enormous network of influence, but it also provides the scientific and the practical support needed to achieve our shared goals. So together, our organizations created a real formidable force for change. Reflecting on the work that Aviva and WWF have done together, we are very proud. Overall, the partnership has made significant strides in promoting sustainability and resilience, and the Access to Nature Fund in particular has been hugely successful, allowing communities and groups to access nature and realize those benefits. It's a great example of how businesses and environmental organizations can work together to drive real and positive change.
That was Leah Ramotar from Aviva. Right, Jacob, back to you and this awesome conversation. I wanted to just touch upon as well the fact that where we are now, it is an urban area, and it's a big thing that I talk about, particularly, you know, the access to nature. And obviously, you speak in there about being able to go to woodlands, you know, or the place in Wales. But when you were growing up in an urban area, what were ways then as well? Would it be a park? Would it, you know, kind of, I don't know, I think it's an important thing for people to go, you don't have to be in the Lake District or up in the Scottish Highlands.
It's not far away.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it was one of the lovely things about London is there really are green spaces that you can find. So, I mean, Hampstead Heath was like the original stomping ground for all of my natural adventures. There's a tree there that was like my ultimate climbing tree. I think they've roped it off now, which is probably for the best. But when I was small, I was just
There's a poster of you on there going, keep this man out.
Yeah, it's wanted, right? But Yeah, I mean, what a gift to have Hampstead Heath around the corner from me. It's really special, and a huge cavernous place for a child and a grown up to run around in and discover. So that was a big place for me growing up,
Yeah.
huge. But you know, I mentioned as a child going to Norfolk and going to Wales, and we went to Cornwall a little bit too, and just places that felt like untouched and a bit sort of ravaging, you could say, were really, really crucial for my imagination. It's like just a place to feel free. And it's funny, I think as a kid, I was drawn to two main frontiers where chaos and order could both exist, and one was the natural world and the other was music, of course.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in music you have all these systems at play, all these different sort of lengths of time or different layers and axes of play, but it all kind of works, you know, at its best. And sometimes with music, when you start to try and chop it up and organize it, and we say there's a word called quantization, which means that you kind of have in music a set of rhythmic events that are very random, like, and if you quantize it so it goes and goes in that rigid line.
Okay.
It came from the 1980s when drum machines came in.
Right.
In the 1970s, you listen to all those records, it's just like all the human beings like wiggling around. And then the 80s, everything was like because all the drum machines put it onto the grid bass system. So the sort of dismay with me comes as someone who loves sort of imperfect human stuff. Musically speaking, I love things that aren't exactly on the grid because they just feel more real.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it goes without saying, but when it comes to the natural world, when we start to try and order it and literally chop it up and put it into these ranks and take from it, then it starts to fall apart in a way where the chaos can't survive.
Yes.
And we need wild places, internally, externally, and in music as much as in the natural world. But, you know, everything comes from the natural. We are the natural world. We're born of it. So it makes sense to me that I'm drawn to an amount of wiggly, wonky, kind of interconnected, chaotic things. And I lament the sort of destruction of the wild in music. And very, very obviously, I think all around that and around the way that we're living our lives right now, many of us are lamenting our wild spaces in the natural world. And we're seeing some of the results of it, and we're feeling some of the results of it.
Yeah.
And so, it's a very crucial time, I think, to be having these kinds of conversations.
For sure, and it's to what extent as well. I think we're only at the tip of the iceberg, and you can feel there's a slight discomfort, there's an uncomfortability, but we still can't quite put our fingers on what it is. But it is that slowly but surely it's happening. It'll probably be in 10, 15 years ago, oh, it was that was happening, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a difficult, but unless you've got that connection or you're seeing or appreciating it, it's difficult to kind of think put the two things together. For yourself, has that always innately been in you? Did it come from your parents, or was it just something as a kid you just, as you say, you hit that forest and it spoke to you and suddenly was like, okay, this is, I'm interested in this.
It just felt right to me, I think. Oh, okay, of course. You know, I think I have a very, very special family. We're all introverts, me included in my family. And so we all, I think, love spending time in places that make us feel complete. Just, you know, it's a really healthy feeling, I think, for all of us. So there was always dialogue around, God, this is beautiful. Why? You know, let's lean in and understand. I think that as human beings, we're drawn to beauty in a way where we naturally want to protect it if we see it. So if we see a little creature, a little animal, or a little human, we think, oh, how beautiful! I want to take care of you naturally.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the line, I think that got snapped or broken. And I think that once you've made that kind of emotional connection with something you find beautiful, I feel it's impossible not to have some inclination to want to sort of just safeguard it and keep it safe. And I feel like some people maybe just haven't had a chance to really know and really see. I think that some of the people who are making the biggest decisions that affect the future of some of these spaces, it can't be that they've spent much time in them, because if they had, surely they would have been struck by the same thing. It feels to me like such an automatic human response.
Yes.
But I've never not known it. So I think to me, that there's something very synergetic and fulfilling about spending that kind of time in those places. So, you know, if there's one thing I think to encourage people of all walks of life to do first before jumping in and trying to solve any problems, is actually just to be in the thing, to really live in it, because you can't heal something that you don't understand from here. And because of the number of different kinds of solutions that we need right now, it's not just one thing or two things or five things or even 10 or 100. It's so many different kinds of, so many layers to the problems that are at play. To me, the first thing to do is just to be present for it.
Yes.
Which maybe is a hard thing to do, but I think that being moved by something is the first opportunity that you really have to change.
Yes.
And we're in a strange time for information, because I think that there's more and more information. It's like information overload. And I think there's a tendency people have who want to solve some of these problems to try to compel us to change from using data.
Yeah.
Can't you see this data? Please pay attention.
Yeah.
Look at this graph, And in my line of work as a musician, I know that doesn't work. It's like you have to speak straight to somebody's heart first.
Yeah.
Once you've done that, you've kind of bypassed all these layers of defense. Then you can inspire a change. Then, because that person can change themselves. They don't need you to force them to change. So that's what I think music can do in a unique way. But it's also what the natural world does by itself if you just pay attention to it.
Yes. And I think that being present is such a big one in a world where we're constantly either looking back or looking forward or looking for the next,
or looking down.
I always say to people is that we'll just come to the here and now if you can, in whatever shape or form that looks like. Just being still in the moment and being with yourself in this space is huge. But it seems like you're saying, you touched upon it before, it's almost one of the hardest things to do, and everything is making us not do that. The distractions, it feels like everything is put in place to go the other way from that, which I think it's just so jarring for us all. And you can feel that people are feeling this friction a little bit, but they can't put the finger on it,
Exactly. But unless you know the feeling of being really in the present, then you don't know what you're missing. It's a funny thing. So I think as someone who's always loved that stillness and the quiet of a space, either an internal space or an external space. It sort of it just feels it's so clear when that's not happening. It's like, oh, that's not happening. I'm surrounded by noise, external noise or scrolly noise or whatever kind of noise it is. And it's of all the times to learn ways of doing that is now.
Are there any other landscapes in particular that for you are go-tos? Is the sea possibly, or is it all being up in the rolling hills maybe? Where would you say as another area that you love?
It's such nice questions to get to answer.
We've got on Call of the Wild, guys.
Yeah. The ocean was always another foundation for me. I would say the forests were like the ultimate sort of sanctuary, but
I feel that's the same for me.
It's I don't know what it is. The ocean feels just enormous, and obviously it's this vast expanse even from the shore to get to witness. And I think that the sound of the ocean was the thing that really got me excited. The constant flow and watching it and seeing it flow. About a month ago, I was in Costa Rica. Actually, I went to hang out there for a bit, to hang out with the creatures of the wild. And we were sleeping about 20 meters from the ocean. And the first night I was there, I could barely sleep because of the sound. And then by the end, I was so used to it. It was just this real sanctuary of sleep-inducing white noise, and you get this sense of the constant rising and falling. And then when I went to New York after that for a little bit, I really missed it. Because there's this kind of like monotone silence of the hotel space, and I just hadn't realized how coded we are for the natural world when we sleep. And I'd hear like the howler monkeys and the macaws and the cicadas, all these creatures plus the ocean. It was really an amazing sonic experience. So that's just like a recent thing I was very struck by is the just purely the sound of the natural world at night, which is like a whole different frontier.
So it just made me think then, because I can struggle with my sleep a little bit, and particularly being in London with the alien noise, so to speak, the sirens and the cars, and that keeps me up. But you're so right. Even when I was away, it was a cacophony of sound. But very
it's actually louder.
But actually we had no qualms, just nodding off straight away. I genuinely had never thought that until you said it. I was like, when I've been thinking about, all these sounds, I need my earplugs in and my eye mask, to block out my senses.
And
I'm out in nature. You don't need any of that.
You're just in.
You're
just like,
and it's kind of that nice reminder of course, because this is where. Well, so you said before, we are it and it is us, and that's where we come from. Where we're meant
it feels like, I belong in this, because this is me. This feels like my brain. But externally, like, it's wonderful.
Speaking of oceans, feels a nice segue, because I watched this amazing, it's quite inspiring and awe-inspiring in a way, of you and Aurora on a floating ice sheet with you on a piano singing. Can you set the scene for us and tell us about that? That's probably one of the coolest places I've seen two people sing, if not as far as venues go. That's got to be at the top.
It was literally the coolest place.
Of course.
It was extraordinarily cool. We took a trip to Svalbard, which is north of Norway, like a mythical place. You know, and I've heard about Svalbard. There's a trilogy of books. My favorite books as a child were books called His Dark Materials. So like Golden Compass or Northern Lights, Subtle Knife and Ambaspargos by Philip Pullman, the legend. And a lot of that book, the first book is set in Svalbard in this parallel universe. So that was my first inclination that Svalbard was this mythical place with armored bears and all sorts of stuff. The bears are not armored, they're just polar, but they are rampant around the area. And so, yeah, we took a trip there with Greenpeace, and we were on board this amazing ship for 3 nights, sleeping with these little, you know, circular windows and these bunks. It was a bit like being on a tour bus, but just like different as well. So we were campaigning for Norway to stop deep sea mining, which is this ridiculously devastating thing on so many levels. And the bottom of the ocean is so unexplored and so misunderstood. But by disturbing all that carbon that's stored down there, like really disastrous stuff happens.
For sure.
So we went to try and put a stop to it. And it was an amazing experience because, first of all, just being on the boat, we were surrounded by so many experts and professional adventurers. You know, even just the sound and video crew had lived so much life and witnessed so much change, and it was just amazing. And we saw some photographs of the exact glacier that we went to perform in front of, even like 8 years ago. I think was the last time they went there to do something, and it was totally different. You know, it was like so much bigger, so much icier all around the area. There was huge like icebergs, chunks of ice, things that were floating around. And there wasn't much ice left when we were there, and it was a really striking thing. The Arctic feels like this imaginary place. Oh, far away. Oh, I'm sure it exists somewhere, like you know, in a far off clime. And you know, you hear about it, you see the photos, but being in it is just different.
Yeah.
And it's just the thing we were talking about before. Is like unless you've really seen it.
Yes.
Like I didn't know. Like I knew about the Arctic, but I didn't know the Arctic until I went there. And, and you smell it, and you hear it, and you see it, and feel it on your skin, and it's so real.
Yeah.
And so we set up this little sort of pontoon, as they called it, supercharged with flotation devices.
Okay.
So we strapped a local upright piano to this pontoon, and it was an extraordinary thing because, you know, we really were unwilling for a piano to travel any distance to get there, because that was against the whole thing. It's like we're not going to fly in a piano. So someone on Svalbard had this little upright piano, which was very patient with me for putting it in these conditions. But by the end of the day, the hammers had actually frozen, so I couldn't play the keys. It was
no way.
And I'd never experienced that before. Hopefully we'll never experience it again. It made my job quite difficult. But it was me and Aurora, who I adore. She's like
she's just beautiful.
Total spirit animal, you know, and
totally ethereal and magical people.
Oh yeah, like real fairy dust.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, you know, the only real audience members were the creatures of the deep.
Yeah.
And we actually had hydrophones underwater, recording underwater as well as on top, because we wanted to really set the scene. So we wanted the sound of the ice melting, and we wanted the sound of the creaking of the pontoon. And so I've kept those audio channels just for me.
Isolated on their own.
Yeah. Isolated. And so they were underneath us, and you hear like, and all this little crackles, and the crackles are of air from millions of years ago being released from the ice. It's like this constant crackling. That's the sound of it. And this air's been trapped there for 1 million years.
Until that point.
Until that point. And it was really thrilling.
I kind of, wow, even listening to that is so special, isn't it?
Oh, man.
It was like, they're getting a history of the planet right there. They're just released.
And you hear, you're in it, you know, in the history of the planet, which is just a different emotional feeling.
It's amazing though as well that you were able to create that video. And I think that's where, when you talk about music or storytelling, it's so important in these conversations, because you're able then to bring just a little snippet or a feeling or a sound of that place for people then to not go, it's just this far off entity that we don't know about, which I think is, ignorance has been a big part of the problem for a long time.
Yeah.
Because unless you're confronted with it and it's at your doorstep, or you know, love, and you can see it and feel it and touch it, it's not really happening. But that's where music, storytelling and creating stuff like that play such a key role in driving this conversation and trying to
So
bring
important.
about change, you know?
Yeah, I think another of the sort of diseases of today psychologically is this sort of individualism
Yeah.
thing, you know, where everybody feels like an island. Like, oh, I'm me and I've got my thing and this is what I believe. And we're more vulnerable when we're trained to think like that, which I think is why we're trained to think like that in a sense, because we're much easier to prey on
For sure.
by these giant corporations. But I think it's not just a practical issue, but it's a deep kind of psychological or spiritual issue. And the idea of you're far away or this is far away from me and I'm over here, so we're not connected is such a travesty. And we're losing so much of what makes life meaningful.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that music can do at its best as well, is to remind people of that togetherness. So one of the things I like to do when I perform live is I like to get the whole audience to sing together as one massive choir. And I'll kind of split the audience into different sections and I'll be moving the notes up and down. And it's like an experience that's really hard to describe with words because it's just like, it's a feeling-based thing. But one thing I've always believed with music that music can really do is it's like show it rather than tell it. You know? Show the way the world can be.
Yeah.
If you get 5,000 people to sing together, it's like it's a lesson.
Yeah.
For everybody, and for me especially. It's like it's a way of me distributing my power
Mm-hmm.
and saying I'm only as powerful as I make you feel.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really extraordinary, wild thing to create on a mass human scale through music. And music is one of the safest places to explore and experiment with that feeling of being kind of connected and grounded and all these things. But going to some of these natural places and feeling like I'm climbing inside them is such a relief for me. But there's always an element of me feeling like I have to kind of relinquish an amount of control, you know, because here in London, growing up, you know, in a space like I did,
Yeah.
the illusion is that we live in these quite controlled lives, you know, and you have this thing here and this thing here, and this is my schedule, and
Do that on that.
these are I'll do this and this day, whatever. But sometimes you just need to remove yourself from that environment and the structure of things and just live in a different way. And it is about saying, okay, I'm not the boss here. This is the Arctic, you know. I'm not in charge. I'm here to learn. I'm not here to tell you anything or to prove anything. I'm just here to first of all absorb it, and then at best just to show it to people. Look at this.
Yeah.
Wow.
See what you think and feel about
See what you think and feel about this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play you how I feel about it. And it's a crucial part of the resistance, I think, is to not to try and convince people of things, but
Agreed.
to show people the thing.
Yeah.
Because the only person who's going to convince the person of the thing is them.
Yeah.
And what I believe when it comes to what the resistance as this big word, but it is in a sense.
Yeah.
It's the resistance against all the forces that are trying to tear us apart and isolate us and destroy our
Break
natural
everything
spaces
down.
and
Yeah.
tear them down and try and be controlling, is a combination between showing it and telling it. And you can't just have one without the other. You can't only show it and expect people to understand the nuances of the issues, and you can't only tell it without storytelling and showing and emoting. So I think from my side of things, I hope to show it as much as I can in useful ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also forever a student of it, because there's so much that we need to absorb and understand about the breadth of the problem and the issues at play. And yeah, so it's a privilege to be able to go to some of these places and really be there, because that feels like one of the greatest services we can show and play to the places, is to really pay them a visit. Really pay them a visit. So I'm going to give you me for a bit. You're in control. Tell me what to do.
Yeah, there you go. I give myself to you. So, and then taking that then into your music, do these different environments then inspire different sounds and feelings of tracks? Or, you know, you say in there you've kept the sounds of what you heard there in the Arctic, and then I don't know, maybe you go spend time out in the forest. Will that then for you creatively muster up a different feeling, a different sound?
Definitely. There's a very literal inspiration.
Yeah.
Like the sound of ice crackling underwater is just so cool.
Yeah. Literally.
Literally. And weirdly enough, like even before I went to the Arctic, I was obsessed with the sound of ice in oceans. I don't know why. It's really hard to describe, but like my best version of it is it goes like, yeah, it's like that. It's a really bad example, but it's like
It's just sitting there.
it's like all the frequencies are there. So it's like really low. It's like and then like
All at the top, yeah.
it's just like, oh, it's like your brain's getting a massage, like so nice. So in a very literal level, it's inspiring because it sounds so great, it sounds so cool. And then in a spiritual way, it's inspiring. In a philosophical way, it's inspiring. In a visual way, it's inspiring. And in that sort of energetic way that we were talking about before, it's inspiring in that way too, because there's a presence to it that goes in. So my job as a musician and artist is to take the world and sort of alchemize it into things that move me. And if I can do that, then the likelihood of me moving somebody else is greater than anything else. So I have to find the thing that I'm tickled by or moved by, and make myself cry or make myself laugh. And if I can do that, then it's likely that some of that will transmit to the people who it's meant to transmit to.
For sure.
I think the same goes with anything that's inspiring. You can take something at face value and say, I'm going to write a piece of music about this particular person or this particular tree or this particular day. But you can also just be with the tree person all day, or all three at the same time, and let those things just go in. And then when you sit down and play, it just comes out and it's whatever it is. So the thing I love about music, which is so safe for me, is that you can be both very literal and very abstract, but it's all kind of welcome.
Yeah, it's all kind of part of the same thing. Made me think of as well a little bit just more personally in an acting sense.
Yeah.
But being that same thing as well of you kind of want to drill in the character, understanding him and getting all the little nuances and sitting with it him. But then when it comes to doing the scene, you just then need to trust that it's in there.
And just kind of
go.
And
oh wow, happens to the other person. And then if it makes something happen to the other person, then in turn that might then open up something new. It's interesting though, it feels like it's just common practice in art, in all art really, which is why art has such a key role to play in this conversation, I think.
And as an actor, I mean, surely you would agree here that the first thing to do is to observe.
For sure.
You can't create characters off the top of your head necessarily. You have to. It strikes me that you meet the characters. You have to spend time. You have to study their eyes and their ears and the way that they are, and like that's your kind of superpower is that observation and alchemy. It's to say, okay, I'm watching, and I'm learning, and I'm moved by this and that and the other, and it goes in, and then. Yeah, and then trusting it's in there and it will come out the way that it's meant to.
Yeah. It was just as you said the thing about the music. I was like, yeah, it feels out. It's
totally,
how it should be for an actor.
Oh,
while we're kind of just on the bigger conversation, and this is such a big question because we know this is such a layered issue, and there are so many areas to this conversation and problem. But just for you personally, Jacob, if you could flick a switch now, and it just solve one thing, is there one thing that comes to mind and go, that would be the thing I'd love that we could just knock that on the head, or that would be solved?
Gosh. It's so hard to say this one thing. I'd probably put my arms around the forests and say, don't touch these forests.
Yeah.
Because it's the lungs of the earth. We need it so much. And on all these different levels, it's just everything falls apart without those really core ecosystems. So yeah, if I could protect all the wild forests in the world, like that
would be it.
That's what I'd do. For sure.
Jacob for president. No, Jacob for world president. Let's get the forest saved.
Gosh, yeah. Well, that's something I will campaign for first.
Well, I'll be there front and centre, mate.
Great, thank you.
Just for a bit more fun questions, then. If you could be any animal, wild or tame, what animal do you think you'd be, Jacob?
These are the crucial questions.
Now we're getting to the important stuff. We've solved the forests.
Right.
We've looked after them. Now I want to know, what animal would you be?
So as a child, my favourite animals were ring-tailed lemurs.
Cool.
Right?
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I haven't had meaningful experiences in real life with ring-tailed lemurs yet. This is one of my real bucket list things. I want to go to Madagascar and hang with them there, maybe. But yeah. Also, I'm a huge mantis shrimp fan. Do you know about mantis shrimp?
I don't know, but please tell me.
They're extraordinary creatures.
Okay.
So mantis shrimp are like this big, and if you look them up, they're like rainbows. They're like crazy rainbow shrimp. I could easily go on for many minutes now, but a couple of cool facts. One is that, as I understand it, human beings have 3 cones of color: red, green, blue.
Yep.
Mantis shrimp have 15, I think it is, or 16. So they can see colors that we cannot perceive. It's like these imaginary colors.
Wow.
Which is already so amazing. And then there's this thing with mantis shrimp where their limbs move so quickly that if a human being could move their arm at 1/10 of the speed at which a mantis shrimp can move their arm, then we could throw a baseball into orbit. That's the kind of speed we're talking
way.
about. So if you put a mud shrimp in a tank, it just break out. And there's crazy mantis shrimp battle videos on YouTube. This is like a deep core thing for me.
Yeah,
You watch like mantis shrimp versus anything, and it would just be like, and then the other thing's just like. So that's really amazing.
that is very amazing.
They're wild creatures. So yeah, I don't know if I want to meet one, but I would want to be one.
Listen, I could genuinely sit and listen to you talk all day. I think the way that you see the world, think about it, and then are able to express it, and then converse that as well, I think is really, really special. Then
Oh,
I feel that in your music, and I've been able to feel that sat here chatting to you, and I just really appreciate your time, and your outlook and feel on the world is very, very special.
well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me. This is a real thrill and an honor to get to talk about this whole aspect of the world, and something I've loved so dearly for so long. And it's so seldom I get a chance to hang with such a deep fellow enthusiast as you, and someone who's so sensitive to things. So thanks for asking such lovely
Man,
questions.
my pleasure. You're an incredible advocate for the planet, and you're helping bring about that change, man. So keep on.
Let's do it.
And there we have it for this episode, brought to you in association with our friends at Aviva. I want to say a massive thank you to Leah Ramatar from Aviva, and of course, our treasured guest today, Mr. Jacob Collier. If you would like to find out more about how you can get more connected to the natural world, just search online for WWF Prescription for Nature. Call of the Wild is a fresh air production for WWF. Please do follow now for free so that you don't miss an episode. The wild is calling. It's time to act.